Good afternoon, elected officials, legislators, and all other esteemed guests. My name is Travis Nelson, and I am a senior at Hempstead High School and the first recipient of a full four-year Questbridge Scholarship to Columbia University in the city of New York. However, my intent today is not to pontificate on my own accolades, but rather use them as a supplement to the Brobdingnagian efforts of the man we celebrate today, Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr. Thank you. Dr. King, as we all know, is one of, if not the greatest civil rights leaders of all time. Yet for all of his accomplishments, we neglect to acknowledge the humble beginnings and dedication to education that he possessed. See, with a triad of degrees, including a PhD in systematic theology all before he was 27, it was evident that Dr. King understood the old adage to labor for learning before you grow old. See, learning is better than silver and gold. Silver and gold will perish away, but a good education can never decay. In my own life, I've grown up with the truth of the maxims, I can do all things through Christ which strengthens me. The heights by great men reached and kept were not attained by sudden flight, but they, while their companions slept, were toiling upward in the night. To study, to show thyself approved, a workman needeth not to be ashamed, rightfully dividing the word of truth, all from my Caribbean household. I was taught to be the head and not the tail, above and not beneath. And through these ideologies, my thirst for excellence commenced. You see, greatness was always the standard in my household. My mother grew up in Kingston, Jamaica. And due to unfortunate circumstances, see, she wasn't able to receive a college education. Still, even in high school, she fostered the zeal for the exceptional. So that when she birthed me and my sister, she knew that regardless of our paternal accents, we would never be average. She taught us to read from the age of 3 and nurtured our potential and pushes me to do my best, so much so that I can aspire to be the President of the United States of America. Nevertheless, none of my accomplishments would be feasible without the toil of the civil rights movement that continues to resonate in our contemporary society. Yet with all the questions we are faced with, we must understand how we move forward and what role we must play in our future. Let's for a minute examine our past and glean light from its message. See, on February 26, 2012, a young man by the name of Trayvon Martin was walking home from a convenience store in Sanford, Florida, when he caught the eye of neighborhood watchman George Zimmerman. Zimmerman viewed Trayvon as a person of suspicion and proceeded to call the police at 7:09 p.m., a call which, when reaching its conclusion at 7:15, 6 minutes later, resulted in the death of Trayvon. Zimmerman was recorded stating, "He looks black," and "He's unintelligible, he was just staring." These were his observations and subsequent reasoning for taking the life of 17-year-old Trayvon Martin. To this day, it is incredible that the color of Trayvon's skin and the gaze of his eyes was enough in Zimmerman's 2012 mind to take Trayvon's life. It seems even more egregious than the taking of Trayvon's life was that when Zimmerman was taken to trial, he was acquitted of this murder. It was this acquittal that ignited the international activist movement we now know today as Black Lives Matter. You see, initially just a simple hashtag on social media, this ideal expanded with the additional deaths of Michael Brown in Ferguson, Missouri, and Eric Garner in New York City, exposing the dormant racial inequality still malignant within the body of America. With the turn of the 20th century, it seems our society became blind to racial injustice. and started associating it with a thing of the past as if somehow these beliefs were long gone. After the civil rights movement, we ignored racial injustice and transformed into an incurious populace that enabled prejudice to be supplemented by power systems, policies, and actions. Not only this, but with the emergence of the Black Lives Matter movement came the countering phrase, all lives matter. A title deemed more proper by our society due to its inclusion of all races, avoiding any possible prejudice. It is this argument that has woken our social consciousness and stirred action within individuals of color, young and old alike. You see, George Zimmerman was protected by Florida's Stand Your Ground law. Yet as a 17-year-old African-American male, where is my ground and where do I stand? These are the questions that require action, because it is unacceptable for any child of color to leave this room and venture into the land of the free and the home of the brave, afraid and unaware as to whether they'll return home. It would seem our only solution is to require equal rights and justice in our own country, because a system built to divide cannot stand if we do. Over time, we have listened to the many quotes and the many sayings of Dr. King, and we have swallowed the truth of his message that injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. But have we digested the ideal that injustice in any form is a threat to justice of any kind? Our generation faces xenophobia, Islamophobia, prejudice, and rising tension towards the system whose sole intent has become to dissonate, disavow, destabilize, and disenfranchise our people. As millennials, it is our time to rebuke the mentality of constraints and understand the sky is not the limit, but only our direction. We must understand that there is a greater plan for our lives, a greater plan and will. And if we ask God, He will hear us. If we pray to God, He will reveal it. And if we go with God, we will achieve it. Dr. King himself expressed, if a man hasn't discovered something he will die for, he isn't fit to live. This cause is our own, and our concern cannot be with what was or what will be, but rather the imperative focus of what now. I come from a community of mostly earnest people opting for possible doorways of success instead of the resonance of dysfunction. Still, wounds in various capacities run deep. Within the 3.68 miles that encompass my community reside more than 5 separate communities, turf wars, if you will. It is due to this segregation that in my life alone, I have witnessed the death of a youth every July. However, I am tired of going to funerals for lives that haven't been lived. I'm tired of watching a street war that is enabling the genocide of our kind. Last November, I lost a good friend. His name is Scooter. A big brother and a protector to all, so in his memory, I inspire everyone to take the explicit authority to act. To be young and not a revolutionary is a biological contradiction, yet my rhetoric is a decree to people of every nation, of every tongue, from generation to generation, to escape the darkness of complacency and enter the light of progress. You see, the motto of Columbia University is, "In thy light shall we see light." Psalms 36:9. And with the Matthew 5:16 charge to, "So let your light shine before men," it is in my hope that in my light you shall see light. Opportunities of a lifetime only last within the lifetime of the opportunity. And this is our time to stand up and shake the foundation of the global community. No one person can do it without the other. We rise and we fall as one. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed with certain inalienable rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Ours is the generation to fulfill Dr. King's dream and the realization of our American creed so that we can finally establish freedom and justice for all. Brothers and sisters, now is the time to escape the darkness of inequality that we live in and look for the light. Thank you.